From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Taking the ag industry to new heights.
It's a really special opportunity and unique.
To protect one of our most important resources.
For years, subsurface drainage water from the farm has passed through this wetland.
So we know if we don't change our actions in the next 50 years, it'll be 70% depleted.
Helping farmers do more with what they produce.
As we feed more protein, cattle respond with improved efficiency and improved growth.
A tour of the latest in ag innovation and research this morning as we continue our look at the best from our College Roadshow, right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer.
Ben's bins, please hold.
Yeah, Ben's has been busy all day.
Seems like no one can keep up with this new Z series. What did you all put in these seeds?
Science.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The latest in research and technology for the ag industry is happening at our land-grant universities. The Farm Journal broadcast team recently visited several as part of our College Roadshow. Well, this morning, we're taking a closer look at what these colleges are bringing to the table. And we start with South Dakota State University. AgDay's Michelle Rook talked with researchers there about looking at ways to utilize the extra soybean meal as part of an effort to expand soy processing in the Midwest.
Cattle rations haven't included soybean meal for decades as it was replaced by lower cost DDGs. But as soy crush expands, meal may soon be economical again.
It's got to get cheap enough so that on a per unit crude protein basis, it's roughly the same as what distillers are.
SDSU research looked at performance, replacing 50% of the DDGs in cattle rations with soybean meal and 100%.
As we feed more protein, cattle respond with improved efficiency and improved growth. That 50-50 blend looked particularly good. In the case of substituting modified for replacing it with corn and soybean meal, those systems are equivalent.
He says with today's cattle genetics, the rate of gain could be pushed even more with meal.
Their nutritional demands are maybe a bit different, and we think perhaps that that higher quality protein might have a place in some of these growing programs. From an amino acid standpoint, soybean meal is a higher quality protein than distillers.
Dr. Eric Weaver is replacing a portion of this synthetic lysine in swine diets with soybean meal, since feeding more than 5 pounds of the amino acid reduces efficiency and carcass quality.
And so putting 150 pounds of soybean meal back in that diet to replace synthetic lysine is what kind of gave us the best overall performance and cost.
That bump was evident in both market hogs and sows.
And we saw about a 1/10 improvement in terms of feed conversion, and we also saw about a 3 to 4% improvement in average daily gain.
The key, he says, is finding that sweet spot to make meal economical compared to DDGs and considering the price of lysine.
As that price on soybean meal comes down to being a little closer to corn, $250 to $270 a ton bean meal would lead to much better economics.
The other advantage is soybean meal is a sustainable feedstuff.
Soybean meal is a local product as compared to lysine.
Lower priced feeds already give the region a competitive edge, so the hope is lower meal values could help expand livestock production. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
And we have much more important research to bring you as part of our College Roadshow tour. Coming up, we dive into water. How researchers at Kansas State are working to protect the state's most precious resource. The state of Kansas is always dealing with water challenges, and while they may look different from west to east, K-State University is trying to tackle these water resource challenges in more impactful ways. Tyne Morgan reports.
Kansas is the 15th largest state by area, and the water needs and availability are drastically different from east to west.
In Kansas, it's particularly important because in western Kansas, the Ogallala High Plains is severely depleted. So we know if we don't change our actions in the next 50 years, it'll be 70% depleted. Eastern Kansas, with our surface water, we don't change our actions, we lose more than 40% of our storage capacity to sedimentation.
Susan Metzger is the director of the Kansas Water Institute. She says ensuring Kansas has a reliable water supply spawned a new idea, creating a statewide initiative led by Kansas State University.
The Kansas Water Institute was officially launched as a university-level institute at K-State last fall with the launch of our Next-Gen strategic plan. And the goal of the Water Institute is to bring together all of our talented faculty and staff who do work in water resources, whether that's research, teaching, or extension and engagement, so that we can help tackle the state's water resource priorities.
In less than a year, the Kansas Water Institute has been able to secure state appropriation to tackle some heavy-hitting projects while also engaging students. But their work here is far from finished.
Right now is something called the Testing Ag Performance Solution, or TAPS program. So this is a program that was started in the University of Nebraska and now has spread to several states. But basically it takes farm management and gamifies it. So we have a plot in Colby, Kansas, where 34 teams that are comprised of producers and industry partners since March have been making week-by-week management decisions that we replicate in a cornfield for them.
Starting with their seed selection and placement to other planting decisions like dates and row spacing, as well as how often they are irrigating. It's all captured and documented.
They tell us every week what they want to do, including their crop insurance and their marketing. We replicate it in the field, and here pretty soon we're going to harvest that crop and be able to award prizes for the most profitable with the least amount of inputs. So you can imagine just the wealth of data that comes out of a program like that. There's also real beauty in that too. So if we're able to identify research solutions, management solutions, policy solutions that work for the diversity of water resources in Kansas, you can just imagine how replicable it could be throughout the nation and world.
We'll continue the water conversation with researchers at Purdue University as they look for ways to make farms more resilient next. And later, we're off to Minnesota, where one geneticist believes they found a way to breed better corn. The weather is always unpredictable, and that's why at Purdue University, researchers are investigating ways to harness the land's natural features in order to build seasonal resilience. And as I found, that includes finding a way to keep water available during those weeks of drier weather. This generator is powering an idea, linking wetlands, water, and crop production together.
So we can see over that 25-year period, here in Tippecanoe County alone, about one time per year on average, we experience at least abnormally dry periods, or worse, something that shows up on the drought monitor.
Those dry stretches often translate into lost yields for both corn and soybeans.
But even in the vegetative stage, if there's a dry period, it can affect the cob size, which will affect what your final yield will be.
That prompted an idea from a team of researchers here at Purdue University. Take the water from tile runoff during the wetter parts of the year and store it here in a nearby 3-acre wetland.
For years, subsurface drainage water from the farm has passed through this wetland. About 175 acres of the farm has subsurface drains that discharge into this space, but then they would pass right through and go down Indian Creek.
So with approval from the Indiana Department of Environmental Management and the Army Corps of Engineers, the team is reversing that flow for short windows of time.
We have a small sump pump essentially over there run by a generator, and it is pumping water through a 4-inch flexible pipe, something like 500 yards under County Road 500 through a culvert to get it to our field.
The water is then distributed via subsurface drip irrigation straight to the plant's roots.
It's not intensive, full pivot irrigation that you're going to see a bit west of here. This is a system designed for supplemental irrigation. It lets us give the crop a boost during those short but intense dry periods that we're experiencing with increasing frequency in Indiana.
While they've seen yield increases of 5 to 10%, they admit it's not yet a financially viable solution at scale. They hope that by adding other management practices like fertigation or fungicides, it will help the ROI go up.
We're really getting the best yield benefit when we pile on all of those practices. Intensive management and fertigation along with the irrigation water.
Lots of raccoons, socks cost some.
It's also helping to improve the wetland habitat.
This wetland is a natural wetland, but it's been impacted by the agricultural landscape without any management intervention for decades.
They're battling invasive grass species and planting new pollinator habitats. Ultimately, they hope with time and testing to figure out how these two different environments can finally work together.
By providing that little bit of extra water, we get a little bit more resilience and less variability in yield.
All right, up next, a researcher at the University of Minnesota has found a way to breed better corn. But that's not what he was asked to do at the university. See his groundbreaking research next. Imagine being trained for a very specific job, but being told you were hired to do anything but that. Well, that was the case for one researcher at the University of Minnesota, and as Tyne Morgan found out, that tall task opened the door for new groundbreaking research.
Rex Bernardo isn't your typical plant breeder. Instead of actually breeding corn, he's finding new and innovative ways for other researchers to do that.
I was hired as a corn breeder, but I was basically told, Rex, don't breed any corn. We don't need you to breed any corn because the private companies do such an excellent job at doing that.
Originally from the Philippines, he never saw power tools as he was growing up. They did everything by hand, even when building houses.
It's only when I came to the U.S. that I found, oh, there are power tools. There are saws that are powered by these motors. And I thought to myself, boy, if these two guys had these power tools, the house they built would have been built probably with a higher quality and easier and quicker. And this same concept of power tools applies to plant breeding.
It's that concept that launched his career, finding better ways to breed crops to better serve farmers' needs.
We use drones, we use DNA fingerprints. We even try to simulate the entire breeding process and ask what-if questions. What if we grew these hybrids in 5 locations, or 8, or 10? What if we do this, and while keeping the costs the same, how much gain do we get in the end?
For Bernardo, it's important to keep that curiosity burning, always searching for ways to better breed corn.
We have a growing population, we have dwindling resources, we have increased demands, and we're expecting more and more of the crops that we have. And to keep up with this demand for meat, for plants meeting human needs, I think we need to come up with better and better ways to breed corn or any other crop for that matter.
Researching ways to use different technologies available, he says there have been many successes as well as failures.
We learn a lot from failures, and oftentimes we learn more, as you well know, from the failures we have than from the fewer successes that we have.
As he works to uncover improved methods of breeding corn, he says he's learned cost and access to technology are two of the most important factors today.
When I started my career, for example, the way corn breeding was done was we simply grew corn out in the field and we see how they yielded, did they stand up, and then we made evaluations based on these field data. And then DNA fingerprints came to the fore. And at that time, DNA fingerprints were so expensive, but now they are a lot cheaper than evaluating a corn hybrid out in the field, and that has been a game changer. Just that cost differential and the quickness at which we can do these types of evaluations just has changed the way we do corn breeding.
From being able to predict if the corn will lodge or not, or even be resistant to disease, he says the DNA is like a roadmap.
Genome-wide prediction is simply the use of cheap and abundant DNA fingerprints to predict how a corn hybrid might yield, or how tall it would be, or what grain moisture it would have at harvest.
It's forecasting those possible bends in the road that allow researchers to bring better products to market even faster for farmers.
What we're simply doing is using DNA fingerprints as a surrogate or a substitute for field testing. That doesn't mean we don't need any field testing because we need that database of field data, but then we use those DNA fingerprints as sort of a tie to be able to do these predictions. My hope for my own research is to make a meaningful difference in discovering new things that others have not found out, to add to the arsenal, so to speak, or the toolkit that breeders have to help them do a better job. I wasn't hired to breed corn here at the University of Minnesota, so I'm researching different methods that I hope practitioners in different species and other universities where public plant breeding is done, or in the seed industry where these practitioners can put into practice these tools that I've developed.
Have you ever had a great idea that you thought could improve the ag industry? See how Iowa State is growing these ideas and helping students turn them into reality. Next. As more startup companies enter agriculture, have you ever thought, what would it take to launch my own startup company? As Tyne Morgan discovered at Iowa State, a student incubator with the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences is helping take business ideas to new heights.
Walk across Iowa State's campus on any weekday and it's bustling. But what you don't see is that this campus is home to something very unique, helping grow the next generation of agricultural leaders.
We hope that the students really see Iowa as a leader in building the connection, building innovation, building success.
The program is called the Nextg Innovation Impact Study Program, an intense semester-long course that's cultivating change.
We are working with College of Ag and Life Sciences students at Iowa State University to really hear what they think about innovation in agriculture here in the state and give them the opportunity to explore some of the technologies, the research, the products that are driving sustainability in 4 key market segments.
The 4 key focuses are animal science, plant science, bioproducts, and consumer markets.
We're really curious to hear from them what innovations they're finding and how that sustainability is impacting these industries for the future.
The Nextg program is part of a bigger effort in Iowa called America's Cultivation Corridor, which involves not only Iowa State University, but also the Iowa Department of Agriculture.
This is a collection of businesses, of entities like the state of Iowa, Iowa State University, all about trying to promote what we know and love so much about Iowa, is that we're a home to innovation.
Through the Nextg Innovation Impact Study, 8 students are selected during the fall semester.
It's a really special opportunity and unique because it brings our students into the closest contact they could possibly have with a whole range of organizations that are fundamental to the ag industry and the ag economy here in Iowa, and frankly across the Midwest and around the world.
These 8 students are the 2024 class, with a mix of majors and geographies that bring together a collection of fresh ideas and research.
I often tell students their career doesn't begin when they graduate. Their career begins when they're here on campus, learning and doing and having new experiences. And the 8 students who are lucky enough to have this internship this semester have been put in an extraordinary location where they can learn from experts. They can see the world with new eyes.
One of those students is Megan Clark, a junior majoring in ag communications and international agriculture.
I'm a part of the animal health sector, so I have an interest in animal science, studying it as a minor. So it's been really interesting just to have the chance to learn more about vaccines that are coming out, different innovations from like big animal health companies, whether you have your Mercks or Landcos, that sort of thing.
With a required 10 hours of work and research each week, it's more like a part-time job than a class. But the experience and exposure they're gleaning extends well beyond the classroom.
Being an agricultural communication student, I've done a lot about sharing the word and sharing the story of agriculture, but I really want to be on the forefront of learning more about the innovations as a whole and then using my experiences as an agricultural communication student to share my findings out with everyone else.
The focus may be on sustainability, but with such a broad focus, it actually gives the students freedom to explore.
To take it and to put it in some context, I think, is what is important. And that's what these kind of individual projects do, as you say, go make it real for the topic that you're investigating and then talk about it and communicate it. So, I mean, I think that's where you take a broad subject like sustainability that means a lot of things, and it does, but break it down into how does it actually apply? How are we actually achieving those things? I mean, I think that's really the magical part of this.
The students will ultimately present their research to a board of directors that is comprised of ag executives and leaders from across the state.
But we really do believe we've got something special here and that we can put all these pieces together. And obviously, in the end, everybody wins because that innovation that we know is part and parcel of food and agriculture supply chain. It's happening every single day, and boy, about the time you figure out the lay of the land, something changes again. But don't we love that about agriculture?
All right, thanks, Ty. Well, it looks like there's a lot of important innovation and research happening at our land-grant universities. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day on the phone.